Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some pretty incredible new research that might just flip everything you think you know about the ocean's top predator. You've heard of the king of the jungle, right? Well, what if the true ruler of the waves is actually a queen? All right, let's just get right into this. We kind of have this default setting, right? We think of the dominant animal as the king. But what if, in the world of sharks, we've been looking for the wrong gender? Scientists out in the field are now gathering some seriously compelling evidence that says, yeah, we should be looking for a queen. So where do we even start to unpack this? Well, let's begin with the most direct, most undeniable evidence there is: pure, raw physical power. And look, this isn't just a guess. It's something that's been seen time and time again. Researchers like Alison Towner, folks who spend their lives on the water, they all report the exact same thing. They call them the big girls. And when one of them shows up, everybody else, male or female, they just get out of the way. She completely takes over the show. So how much bigger are we really talking about here? The size difference between male and female great whites isn't just noticeable. It is, frankly, dramatic. It's a classic case of what biologists call sexual dimorphism, where one sex is way, way bigger than the other. Get this. A mature female great white can be a massive 21 feet long. Now, to put that in perspective, the largest males, they usually top out somewhere around 13 feet. That is a huge difference. She absolutely dwarfs him. And all that length, well, it comes with some serious weight. These females can weigh in at around 2 tons, which makes them one of the absolute biggest and most powerful predators in our oceans. But why? Why did evolution push them to get so huge? Well, the answer really comes down to one incredibly important number: 17. That's the maximum number of live pups a female can carry at one time. And to do that, she has to be an absolute giant. So you see, her size isn't just about being the biggest fish in the sea for bragging rights. It is a biological necessity. I mean, just think about it. She's got to carry almost 24 pups, and each one can be 5 feet long at birth. That requires a ton of energy, which leads to intense binge feeding. It's even led to these amazing adaptations, like having skin that's literally twice as thick as a male's, just to protect her during really aggressive mating rituals. She is, quite literally, built to rule. But it's not all just about brawn. Scientists are now starting to explore the mind of the shark, and what they're finding is, well, it's revolutionary. I know, it sounds like a weird question, right? But this is a serious pioneering area of research. Experts like Dr. Thomas Van are trying to take all those years of observation, that gut feeling that you're dealing with a specific individual with its own little quirks, and turn it into hard scientific data. So how do you do that? How do you measure a personality? Well, they use this tool called an ethogram. The easiest way to think about it is like a scientific scorecard. Researchers carefully list specific behaviors and then score sharks' actions in different situations. It allows them to build a unique personality profile for every single animal. And this is so interesting because it shows how you can actually quantify something that feels subjective. By scoring a shark on a scale, let's say a 3 for being kind of shy around bait, all the way up to a 9 for just owning a feeding area, scientists can compare individuals. Is this one always more cautious? Is that one always the first to grab the bait? This is how personality becomes data. It's a total game changer. And when they crunch all those numbers, a really clear pattern starts to emerge. And it's not just in one species. It's across tiger sharks, bull sharks. The data backs up what observers have felt for a long time. The bigger females consistently score as more confident, more bold, and way more dominant. So this discovery that sharks have their own consistent personalities, it doesn't just tell us about their social lives. It actually leads to this groundbreaking new theory that could completely change how we think about and manage shark attacks. So, a marine biologist, Professor Eric Klua, he argues that maybe, just maybe, we should be looking at what he calls problem individuals. The idea is that there are these rare, maybe dysfunctional animals whose personalities, maybe they're extremely bold or unusually curious, lead them to do things that the vast, vast majority of their species would never do. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. If he's right, it means we don't have a shark problem. What we might have is a problem with a tiny, tiny fraction of individual sharks who are just wired differently. That is a fundamental shift in how we look at the entire issue. Okay, but to really prove the problem individual theory, you've got to take it a step further. Scientists need to figure out if a shark's personality, its boldness or its shyness, is literally written into its DNA. And the process is kind of like a high-tech forensic investigation. First, you observe and score the shark's behavior. Then you find a way to collect its DNA, which you can actually get non-invasively from saliva left on baits or even a lost tooth. The final and toughest step is linking that DNA profile with its personality score to see if, say, bold sharks have bold parents. It's incredibly hard work, but the goal is to answer that big question: is there a boldness gene? Now imagine if they prove that personality is genetic. The implications are huge. It would completely revolutionize how we manage our relationship with these ancient animals, moving us away from broad policies to a much, much more targeted approach. It would shift our entire perspective from fear to understanding. We could stop seeing every single shark as a potential threat and start to recognize that the vast majority are just going about their day. And often, they're much closer to us than we realize. This tagged great white was tracked patrolling less than a mile from a busy public beach. It's a perfect example that coexistence isn't just possible, it's happening all the time. So when you put it all together, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. The females grow larger, their skin is tougher, they live longer. In a lot of places, they actually outnumber the males. And as we've seen, their behavior is consistently observed to be more dominant. The conclusion from the scientists who are out there on the front lines, it's unanimous and it's crystal clear. From both a biological and a behavioral point of view, sharks live in a matriarchy. And that matters because understanding the behavior of these dominant females is the absolute key to understanding the health of their entire species and, by extension, the ocean ecosystem they control. And this really brings us to a final, profound question. This research, it doesn't just crown a new queen of the ocean. By showing that sharks have unique, inheritable personalities, it forces us to see them not as these mindless monsters, but as complex, sentient individuals. And if that's true, well, that changes everything about how we share the planet with them.